Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us for our Facebook Live. My name is Angela Lamond. I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist, CEO of Lamond Nutrition based in Plano, Texas, and I'm president of the Texas Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. That is the professional arm of dietitians all across Texas. Well, we are here at the Star at Ford Center. This is the brand new facility for the Dallas Cowboys. If you so I just have to say that we had a really devastating loss on Sunday with the Green Bay Packers. They had an amazing season. So I just say thanks so much for the entertainment and the hard work for the Cowboys. We have someone I think is behind some of the power behind the Cowboys. We have Scott Sehnert. He is the Director of Sports Nutrition at the Cowboys. Scott, you have a pretty amazing resume here. He's the Director of Sports Performance right now, and he was recruited by the Cowboys in the 2016 season. But you came from Auburn University.
That's right.
And you head up...
War Eagle.
Oh, there you go. You headed up 21 varsity sports. And you were heading up all the nutrition education there. But your resume really reads really impressive. You have 2 master's degrees. You actually did some internship with the U.S. men's, the U.S. Speed skating. Is that right?
That's right.
I bet that was a neat little experience.
That was
yeah. So, I mean, the Director of Sports Performance, that just seems like a loaded title. Can you tell the listeners kind of, what does that entail?
Sure. Well, that's something that I served, certainly in this first year, 90% of what I did was serving as a sports dietitian. That is where I served, with the Star, with our new training table, with how we feed guys on the road and the different avenues of how to fuel athletes. That's where, again, 90% of my job focused. Because of the Gatorade Sports Science Institute laboratory being built across the street in the Baylor Scott and White Hospital, that's where my background in exercise physiology sort of came in to help build out that part of it. I'll serve as a bit of a liaison to that lab when they get up and running in about a year. But it's something that dietitians, I think, are really well suited to be able to bridge a gap between strength conditioning, athletic medicine. We're very much performance focused, but we're healthcare professionals, and so we can help bridge gaps that sometimes are not always there. And so I think that's where they gave this title because of that. Yeah,
and I was surprised. I think I feel like it was just yesterday that you and I had lunch. You and I were introduced by Dairy Max, the Dallas Cowboys official nutrition partner. And we had lunch at the table, which was a really neat place. So when people do the tour here, can they eat there?
I don't believe they're allowed to eat there.
Okay, but the players eat there, and the staff eats there.
Players, staff, folks from our headquarters side, from accounting to marketing and every other aspect of Dallas Cowboys football is able to eat down there. And it's a place that it's been great. It was well designed before I came on board. But we're able to provide a lot of variety. We're able to provide some foods that really help the athletes recover, prepare. It was a fun thing for me to come on board and know the partnership with Dairy Max. It's something I've always been respecting towards the National Dairy Council and how dairy helps with education of dietitians, and it's nice to work with the food that we know helps with athletic performance and overall health and that sort of thing. So it's been a great partnership in the short term that I've been with them.
Well, and it's a great segue to our giveaway today. We have 3 footballs signed by Barry Church, the safety for the Dallas Cowboys, and 3 represents 3 servings of low-fat dairy to fuel your performance. So we'll be doing that. Anybody that asks a question on here, guys, start thinking about your questions for Scott. We may not be able to answer them all, but everybody that asks a question will be entered in the raffle that will be picked by the end of this cast. So without revealing too many secrets, what are some of the unique techniques or things that you do with the players to keep them in shape physically?
Sure. Well, as I was saying, it's something that we partner well with athletic medicine, with strength conditioning. As we deal with guys, because it's a long season, football's a violent sport, so you deal with injuries. And so one thing that we've tried to do is newer research that's been coming out with Keith Barr is showing how gelatin in particular can help with collagen formation and help with ligament strength and part of that rehabilitation process. And so we've integrated that this year. We do different things to help monitor hydration, some new techniques that are just becoming validated and present in the marketplace of measuring glycogen stores. So to know guys are well hydrated, well fueled for game days has been something we focused on this year.
I don't think people really appreciate how much science goes into food and nutrition and hydration and all the work that has to be done behind the scenes, because you could imagine how much physical stress that each player has, and you're kind of behind the scenes working on that to make sure that they're ready to be under that physical stress.
Absolutely. It's that application of science that separates us as a profession.
That's great. Well, how would you deal with like an athlete's special dietary needs? I mean, I imagine in my private practice I see people that have different GI disorders, anything from minor to lactose intolerance to like celiac disease. Do you see those? I know in the past, even in your resume, you've worked with so many different athletes. How do you do that in combination of making sure they're maximizing their performance?
Sure. Well, it's actually quite easy with the facility that we do have. Legends, our food service provider, has a team of chefs, at least four, that help build out our menus with me, that help every day provide the food that we need. And because of their background, we went through training for them during training camp. Not only were the players going through their training, but our kitchen staff was having specialized performance type training from a chef RD actually from Johnson & Wales University. And so we've done different things, but with that opportunity to have that kind of culinary staff, it's very easy to meet the needs, whether it be a lactose problem, whether it be just different things that they're trying to avoid or need to avoid. It's not been a lot of guys. It's been a very small few, which has been nice.
Yeah. Makes it a little easier to work with.
Yes.
Yeah. And I was curious, but I think you might have already answered it a little bit at the beginning. Did the Cowboys organization specifically look for a director of sports performance that was a registered dietitian? And if so, why do you think that is?
It's my understanding that they did. I certainly don't know everyone that they brought in to interview for the position, but I know that they were looking for registered dietitians in general because, again, I think because of the aspect that we understand on food service, it's something that, whether it's a collegiate setting, certainly now I'm seeing it more and more in professional sports settings, being able to work with food service professionals. Yeah. Again, not that we have to be back there cooking the food and writing 100% of the menu. I think some dietitians are well skilled at that, but we don't necessarily have to do that when you have teams like we have here. But again, between the food service, the athletic medicine, and the strength conditioning aspect of it, that dietitian is a cohesive part of that wheel that can really help put it all together. I think that was the biggest aspect of it, and how we were going to really begin to fuel this team in a different way than they had in the past.
Yeah. Well, dietitians know the science behind it, and we're so proud to have you as a Texas Academy member coming into Texas.
That's right.
For people interested in pursuing a career, I know in the profession, as a spokesperson for the profession, we're trying to get more men in this profession. So we're so proud to have different both genders, and we're seeing it more and more. But even for females that want to do sports nutrition, do you have any advice for them?
Sure. I think, and I know registered dietitians are going to move towards that master's degree, and so even getting ahead of that, I know a lot of people have opinions that you can get a master's degree in a lot of different things, and I think depending upon the professional route you'd want to go, I think that's very true. I think if you want to focus in on sports nutrition, I have a hard time believing now anything outside of an exercise physiology master's degree is going to be beneficial. My first master's was in nutritional science. Yeah. There was an emphasis in wellness and sports nutrition in that program. But as I was in my first job at Michigan State University, I recognized a little bit of a gap that I had been missing there, and part of that was even prior to that with the U.S. speed skating team. They have a true just full-time exercise physiologist part of that team, and I was able to see how they were able to work with the dietitian, and that's great. Not every program is going to have an exercise physiologist on staff, and so if you can help be that person through some education and training, I think that helps bridge some gaps. Again, it's that cohesive application of exercise and nutrition and medicine that kind of come together when you're in sports.
I think it's so interesting. The kinesiology is what you ended up getting.
Absolutely, yes. And so I think that's a big aspect of it. I think understanding what athletes are going through, whether you join a club lacrosse team or whether you go through some education in Olympic lifting and perhaps get a CSCS, a Certified Strength Conditioning Specialist certification, so that you can understand the periodization of training that an athlete might go through, to understand physically what they're going through day to day. When you've experienced it, it adds a little bit more value. You can relate better to that athlete, and I think that's where you see a lot of dietitians that will go into triathlon training and marathon training for that same reason as well.
Is there, I know you mentioned CSCS, just off the cuff, do you recommend, because there's so many different sports like certifications, trainer certifications, do you think that's helpful for somebody in your stature to have something like that? And why CSCS versus ACE or others?
That's a good question. I think NSCA, the National Strength Conditioning Association, I think the American College of Sports Medicine are a couple of the most well-respected organizations, and therefore their certifications are. The NSCA does have a certified personal trainer certification as well, so there's two different ones there. The CSCS is what you see collegiate and professional strength coaches have. And so again, not that you can now do their job, because there's much more to it than that, but that you've gone through some of the education that they've gone through so you can speak a common language. That's where I would say that's important. American College of Sports Medicine has a number of different certifications as well, and I think because of the background that they require, I value those credentials. I don't know a lot about ACE. There are so many others, and I'm sure there are many, many good ones. I just don't know all of them. But I think it's important to do your homework in those areas, because there are probably plenty, just in the same with nutrition certifications, that are not as qualified.
That's right.
You want to do your homework and make sure you're spending the money and the energy. You want to make sure it's well worth it.
Yeah. Staying networked, and you're definitely networked. You're president of CPSDA?
Yes, I'm
Shout out
currently
to
the
them,
president
because I know
of
some people are tuning
Collegiate
in from them.
Collegiate and Professional Sports Dietitians Association. Yeah, so our mission is to really help develop the sports dietitian through their career process, and we do certainly promote full-time dietitian.
Great. So they need to become active in that association as well. Now, the last but not least, of course, now that the season is over, I'm so sorry to hear about that, but congratulations on such an amazing season. The team and the people behind it have inspired really a nation. But now that the season is over, though, what are your responsibilities going forward until next season?
Sure. Well, I have a stack of probably 30 research articles that I printed off throughout the season that I didn't have time to read then, that I'll dive into, that deal with the microbiome, that deal with even carbohydrate and fat metabolism during exercise, because there's still data that comes out on that. Sleep, there's so many different areas, but as I can now have an off season to prepare, I didn't have that for this season. I came in just at the end of OTAs, and so now I'll have this off season to really try and help better prepare some planning for the in-season sort of readiness and recovery of our guys. Again, I've always dealt with the 20-year-old-ish type athlete, and now I'm dealing with not a generation older, but a group of older athletes with longer seasons than I dealt with in college, and so the recovery aspect is very important. So I'm going to focus in on that. We'll continue to improve upon the training table, modify recipes, so we'll have sort of perhaps a taste test Tuesday where we sort of start changing out some recipes for some of our standard meals that we do there. Just trying to build that out. Again, kind of building out what we're going to do with the GSSI lab across the street. We'll do more communication with that organization.
Is that going to be primarily like hydration or?
Well, they can do a lot of things. We'll be able to. They'll have metabolic carts there, so we can measure resting metabolic rate, or we can do fat max testing. Obviously, they'll have any number of different body composition assessments, sweat testing. Certainly is part of that with the hydration. It'll be interesting to see what areas that they can bring into that. I'm excited about that.
That is
sure.
neat.
Yeah.
So a lot of reading and going to conferences like the Texas Academy ACE in Georgetown, and a lot of the other great ones in the sports world. So with that, I think we're going to turn it over to our audience now. So do we have some questions from our viewers?
Oh, yes, we do. From Kelly Oldham, how do you calculate protein needs?
All right. So, and that's a great question. You know, we have a 53-man roster. We have a 10-man practice squad. And I'm not making a meal plan for each and every person. We do calculate protein needs on recovery. If we're going to make a recovery smoothie for a player post-practice, that protein need will be calculated at roughly, I guess not roughly, it's 0.3 grams per kilogram body weight of protein. Again, research that I think Stu Phillips has published more in that area. And so initial recovery will do something in that range. As a whole, again, the athletes that I make meal plans for, it depends on what we're trying to do, but we'll be probably in a range of 1.75 to 2 grams per kilogram body weight. Again, if we're even trying to further lose some body fat, we'll go a little higher on that to right around 2.2 grams per kilo.
That's good.
Yeah.
Very technical question. Thanks, Kelly, for your question. Do we have another one?
Yes, from Crescent Henry Figueroa. What is your feeling on the team taking supplements? Are there specific supplements other than the gelatin you mentioned that you recommend to them?
That's a great question. And one thing I didn't mention about the gelatin is because we have a pastry chef for that matter here, they actually will make specific Jell-O for our players. We'll utilize Gatorade powder, and there's a specific amount. Again, if you go into the research and search some of Keith Barr's, that's BAAR, his research that he's done, they're now showing about 15 grams of gelatin roughly an hour before training, and that could be rehabilitation training or practice strength conditioning. Those sort of things is shown to help with that collagen formation. And so it's not a supplement that we'll use. I think it's Knox gelatin, not to be too specific on brands, but a standard food service grade gelatin that our kitchen will make. Beyond that, I'll recommend to guys certain NSF certified for sport supplements like probiotics. I do believe there's some value in fish oil. It's not 100% conclusive, but
For injury healing?
For inflammation,
in general.
for the potential on brain health and the potential of decreased traumatic brain injury. Again, we have so much violence in our sport.
Yeah.
It's a trauma.
Yeah.
We have dietitians in trauma settings, and they're dealing with similar things that sports dietitians often deal with. Those are some areas. There's another supplement that has higher amounts of zeaxanthin and anthocyane, or not anthocyanin, but zeaxanthin and lutein. Some of those antioxidants that are found in the macula of your eye. And some of the research out of Georgia found that helps decrease glare. They did this with Georgia baseball players, but also ultimately, or long-term, can help with hand-eye coordination. And so again, if we can see a ball more clearly into the hands, or react a little bit more quickly, that can help make a play.
Great. Interesting stuff.
But I'll say, with all of that, supplements are very particular. You have to be very cautious around them. That's why I specifically said NSF certified for sport, because there's not a program out there that goes through the process to ensure that what an athlete is consuming is what is on that label, nothing more, nothing less.
Buyer beware.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're all protected by the Deshay Act.
Yep,
Yeah.
no doubt.
Yeah. All right. How are we doing on time?
We have about 10 more minutes.
10 more minutes. Awesome. Do we have lots of questions?
We do have lots of questions. So, from Barbara Roller Romick, what's the research you're most excited about right now?
Oh, there's areas that I don't know enough about, and I'm hearing more about like endocrine disruptors. It seems like it might have another aspect that plays with some of our food intolerances that I don't know a lot about. So that'll be an area to try and educate myself a little bit more on and learn a bit more about that. The microbiome, all that we're learning, we've known for a while that probiotics impact the immune system, but we're learning about the sort of whole gut-brain axis and depression and different things that a healthy gut can impact on. And so those are two areas I certainly am going to focus in on. Again, trying to think about what we might bring in through the laboratory testing at GSSI, what would be of value there. I've heard it said a few different ways, but there's always a lot of things that you can test, but should you test it, what are you going to actually do with that information? So if we're going to try and test our players on different things, I want to make sure there's great value behind that improving their health or their performance, and so we'll be doing our homework on those areas as well, and again, more that exercise physiology area.
Well, I have a question off of that. Like,
Sure.
Who decides who's going to test the players? Like, is it a team decision, or
It's something that
behind the scenes?
Yeah, it's something that I'll certainly talk to our head athletic trainer, head strength conditioning coach, our director of rehabilitation, depending upon what we want to test. But so much of what actually will get tested will be up to the player through the collective bargaining agreement, NFLPA, those sort of things. A lot of the testing that happens is voluntary. So if we wanted to monitor an athlete's sleep, this is something that actually would have to be done through a third-party organization. It's something that I can't directly have that information unless that player came to me and provided that information for me. So the players are well protected, and that's a good thing. And so that's where a lot of the testing aspects, certainly blood draws and things of that nature, it's not just very strict, okay, this is what you're going to do.
Okay.
They have to be on board with it. For, again, more of the reason why what I suggest needs to have a lot of value behind it.
Okay. Good stuff. What's our next one?
Holly Shermack asks, how do you feel about chocolate milk as a recovery drink? Do you often recommend this to players?
I do. I utilize chocolate milk and regular white dairy milk as well.
Yeah, tell us why that is. 'Cause
Sure.
People always ask me, what is it about chocolate milk or dairy milk that makes it a good recovery beverage?
Absolutely. So some of the original research or vast majority of the research that I'm familiar with on chocolate milk, it does help with the replenishment of that glycogen. So that's stored carbohydrate that's used for fuel. And if we're going to have a couple training sessions in the day, we want to replace that glycogen very quickly. And so that extra amount of carbohydrate that's in the chocolate milk is going to be beneficial. If we have 24 hours or so between training sessions, there's studies out there that have shown that a habitual higher carbohydrate type diet is going to be sufficient to replace the glycogen in those 24 hours. So we don't necessarily have to have the extra carbohydrate and extra calories that come from a chocolate milk if we have the quality protein that we need for that muscle recovery aspect after the initial training, and we have another 23 or 22 hours before we're going to train again. That protein is going to help with muscle recovery, and then their dinner that evening, their breakfast, their lunch the next day, if we have carbohydrate in those meals, we'll be well fueled for that next training session. If that makes sense. So it's more for the two-a-day type training.
Okay.
Again, a lot of things that triathletes go through when we're in two-a-day type training, that extra carbohydrate from the chocolate milk is going to be the benefit there.
Good. That was very well explained. I think we're ready for a drawing, aren't we? Okay, so Scott gets to do the honors here. And live on Facebook, you get a, don't look, there's a lot of names in there. A lot of questions.
All right, first winner is Michael A. DiBiase.
Hey, Michael, congratulations. You've got a signed, autographed Cowboys ball, the very church here. We are going to private message the Facebook page if you can with your mailing information. We will send this over to you. Congratulations. Okay.
Second winner is Christina.
Come on, you can do it. You can do it. Oh, Cifuentes?
There you go.
Christina Cifuentes, you are the second winner. Same type of ball here. We've got 3 of them here. If you can message the Eat Right Texas Nutrition Facebook page with your phone number and your mailing address so we can send this to you. Congratulations. And last but not least, come on guys, cross your fingers.
Monica Schwint.
Monica.
I can butcher other people's last names because my last name gets butchered all the time.
Yeah, Sehnert is how you spell pronounce his name. So Monica, you're the 3rd winner. Congratulations. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this great interview. Be sure to like this page because this is where you're going to get reliable science-based information with no ads. Dietitians from all over the state of Texas submit articles and recipes, and they will go on this Facebook page. So thanks again for watching. Thanks to Dairy Max for the contribution on the autographed footballs. And you guys have a great day.